Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hello, I'm Eric.
And I'm Kevin.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
You were chuckling a little bit there. Is it just how bad my Arnold impression is?
I'm chalking it up to the bourbon.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, what bourbon are you drinking at this point?
I poured out another one from a bourbon maker called J. Mattingly.
Okay.
They're actually amazing. I've only had like a few different things of theirs, but they're these like ultra small batch. Every bottle almost that you find is going to have a different little name on it.
Oh, wow.
And it'll be like bottle 42 out of 95.
Oh, wow. So keep the bottle when you're done drinking it then.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I don't know, but they're so good. So I grabbed like 3 of this one, and then they were like sold out. But Jay Mattingly, our local liquor store here, Tower, like had them on. This is normally like a bottle that's like well over $100, but they were selling them for like $50.
Holy
fucking shit's tasty. If you could ever find it at a decent price, like buy it because it's good, but it's proofy as fuck. So again, I've gone from 120 proof to I think it was 114 proof. So
you're taking it down. You're stepping it down a notch. Yeah. Okay. All right.
If I make it through this series, it's going to be a miracle.
I'm ready for it, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, man.
I can't wait.
But we're back to talk more Red Heat.
Yes. So why don't you fill us in on where we are before we move the plot forward?
I also want to say, because we neglected to, thanks to everyone out there who's listening. Thanks to our listeners on the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network.
Always.
We love you guys. If you're listening to us there, check us out on our own feed. If you're listening to us on the OG 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger feed, check out the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network because there's tons of like fun stuff happening over there.
Lots of good podcasts over there.
Yeah, man. So, but yes, Red Heat. I'll try to catch us up. There hasn't been a whole lot that's actually happened in the movie.
It's actually right. This is no face off.
So that's the
bar now.
Yeah. No, we got this Russian cop named Danko who's Schwarzenegger. His partner got killed back in Moscow by a gangster named Victor, who then escaped and fled to America.
Mm-hmm.
So then he got like pulled over for a traffic violation or something and arrested. So Danko's been assigned to come to America and get him and bring him back to Russia. But he's not supposed to tell the Americans at all about like how bad this guy Victor is. Because he's in America trying to like orchestrate some sort of like multi-million-dollar drug deal to smuggle drugs back into the Soviet Union and, whatever, fuck this society up, poison them with the scourge of American narcotics or whatever.
Drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah, sure. So meanwhile, we've got a group of Chicago cops, mainly just Jim Belushi playing this guy named Ridzik, who is sort of a ne'er-do-well cop, I guess. But when Danko arrives, he and his partner are sort of assigned the task of babysitting him and helping him collect this gangster Victor and get him back to Russia. But they get him. They're attacked as they're leaving the jail. Ridzik's partner then is also killed by these guys. They take Victor and they're gone. What else? Danko got clubbed over the head. So he's unconscious. Yeah, the main like plot device, the MacGuffin, is this little brass key that we don't know what it's for. It looks like a little like locker key, but we don't know what it's for. And that's where we're at. So Victor's on the loose. Danko has been clubbed over the head, and Ridzik's partner's dead, and Danko's partner's dead. So they both have like an axe to grind with this guy Victor.
Yeah, absolutely. They're both basically widowers, and they want revenge.
Oh shit! Before we get deep in the plot,
Okay.
I do want to say that I had read some quotes from Walter Hill, who's like the writer director on this thing, where he had said that his goal with the movie was to show the world that Arnold is much more than just like a muscle man doing feats of strength, but he can also really carry a story. You know, he can really act as well. And I'm not so sure that I agree with that. At least at this point in Arnold's career.
Right. This was not the vehicle for
Or
this.
at least not with this story.
Right. I agree.
Because I had found like a shooting script online that had like so much more dialogue from the Danko character throughout the movie. And then watching the final cut here, it's like they either just never shot that stuff, or maybe there was a scenario in which Arnold's performance just wasn't good enough. And they're like, oh boy, we got to cut the shit out of this.
It makes you think, like, you know, Peter Stormare was young, but he would have been perfect for this role. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it is weird to me that I feel like Schwarzenegger got cast based on the strength of Schwarzenegger's brand and not so much if he was the right actor for the role. I mean, especially given that he tries to do a Russian accent, but his attempt is just to roll his R's slightly. And you're like, you spent 3 months trying to learn this language. And this is the best you can do is you roll your R's a little bit, right?
Yeah. It was like, I feel like there was a lot of miscalculating that happened.
It really was.
Because honestly, I mean, I got more notes to talk about it later, but it's like, this just wasn't the type of movie that you expect for Arnold.
Especially not in 88, right? I mean,
like, I feel like this could have been, they need to either rewrite the script to make it more tailored for what Arnold does, or cast somebody else and make it more of like a gritty sort of buddy cop movie.
Agreed.
This does kind of feel like a retread of 48 Hours, which was another Walter Hill movie. Like, where, you know, I mean, there were a million of those movies where it was like, oh yeah, the mismatched partners.
I mean, the buddy cop is a trope.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Like Lethal Weapon had come out the year before, and it was huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like they were like, we could do another buddy cop movie.
The difference was Lethal Weapon was hilarious, and it had Danny Glover and Mel Gibson
good
in their
actors.
primes.
Like, because if Arnold's not a one-man army, if his character's not a one-man army, then you don't need to cast Arnold.
Right, exactly. I mean, that
like,
was
you
what
got
his...
I don't know who it would have been. You don't even need to cast a Russian. Like, you could have someone else that could fake that accent and just, you know.
Yeah, Russian accents, like everybody can do a Russian accent for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is
it's the easy
about
one.
the Russian accent, but everybody can do a Russian accent.
Is that the
except for
you're the
Harrison
improv
Ford.
guy?
Yeah.
So I know they'll do those improv games where you have to like shuffle accents.
Oh,
and
we're
it's
not
like,
allowed to do those anymore.
You don't do those? Why? Is it
offensive?
offensive?
It's offensive now.
Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
you're not allowed to do it. Yeah, but I did. I did a couple of years ago. I was in a play, a scripted play, where I played sort of a vaguely Eastern European guy. And you can do. It's very easy to do sort of vaguely Eastern European. You can drop in and out of it at a drop of a hat. It's very, very easy. This is a very easy thing to do, right?
There's some tough ones, and then I feel like, but yeah, like you said, that's like an easy one.
Yeah, Eastern European, like anybody can do an Eastern European accent. Yeah. So, but anyway, so we have been like long intros on this episode on this movie.
Blame it on the alcohol. I'm sorry. Okay.
We're very above board on the show.
All right, all right, we got a movie.
All right, so movie Red Dawn.
Red Heat.
Wow. Okay. We're in the hospital.
It's all good.
Yeah, we're in the hospital.
We're doing it.
We're gonna get there.
We're good.
We're gonna do this. We're halfway through. So we're in the hospital, and a doctor is updating Lieutenant Stobbs on Danko's condition, and it's just a concussion. It's nothing that serious. Okay, fine. He got beaten in the head 12 times. Yeah, and it's just a mild concussion.
But the thing is, also, you don't cast Arnold to play a character who can get hit over the head and he winds up in the hospital.
Right, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
He's built to play characters that can defeat an army by himself. That's what he does. He can fight a predator.
I mean, I don't understand why he didn't wield, like, just pull from nowhere a giant broadsword, right? I mean, like, that's what you're waiting for Arnold to do.
This was supposed to be a buddy cop movie where the Danko character is a straight-laced cop, and he gets teamed up with, like, the loudmouth American cop, and they're unlikely partners, like in any number of a dozen other fucking movies. But then they were like, but we could get Arnold, and he was a big star. And I guess that sort of, and they're like, maybe he can do it.
This was the era of the great movie stars, right? I mean, like the 80s was like the movie star was what sold movies. Like the movie itself was less important than the star in the movie at times, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely think that this was sort of a victim of that. There's no question about it. But we also see that the porn-stashioed henchman also survived, but he's in a coma, though.
That was amazing that he survived because he got shot like 4 times in the chest. Crazy shit.
It is ridiculous that a henchman could get shot that much and survive. That is completely against all movie law.
Yes.
Anyway, he survived, but he's in a coma. And Ridzik and Lieutenant Stobbs are discussing the shootout. And
there's that weird bit where he's like, he didn't even get a shot off.
Oh, yeah.
Like where Ridzik, the delivery was like he was disappointed in his dead partner. Right, like, I'm pissed at him for that.
They're looking at the unconscious henchman in a coma, standing like as almost like proud parents looking into the maternity ward, right? And and Ridzik walks up and is like, he didn't even get a shot off. Like, so disappointed.
Like, he's dead. It wasn't for lack of like...
Yeah, trying,
it wasn't just like, oh, he let him get away.
Right.
Like, he got killed.
And I think, again, this comes down to, I don't know if it was the director not knowing how to direct Jim Belushi or just Jim Belushi not being able to rise to the challenge. But you can imagine a way where he could deliver that line.
Yeah, you could make that line work.
Right, exactly. But as delivered, it was just sort of really flippant and dismissive of his dead partner, who, by the way, is never...
body's not even cold yet.
Right, and we don't ever... that character's never mentioned in the rest of the movie. Like,
no,
never
it's never
again.
like, it's never a huge motivation. I mean, anyway.
So Ridzik says that he thinks that the guys who orchestrated all this were clean heads, and Stobbs says that... well, it wouldn't surprise me because the guys we busted earlier, they got released on a technicality.
Wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. It's like it was something the judge gave him a pat on the ass on the way out the door or something like that. I don't remember the line of dialogue.
Even the guy with the shotgun who was like shooting at us, he was like,
yep.
Gallagher fucked up that warrant, apparently.
Apparently, yeah, some sort of weird, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, you know. I mean, Gallagher, he's dead for a reason. He didn't even get a shot off.
Yes.
So Stobbs says that the Darkhead henchman is a known accomplice of Victor.
Well, no shit. He sure wasn't a clean head.
Right, exactly. Like, what else would he be? So as they're looking over the comatose henchman, we cut to Danko's private room, actually. Good for him on securing a private hospital room. And there are these 2 Soviet bureaucrats just like staring, like towering over him.
Yeah, it was a weird shot. It was like extreme close up.
It was extreme close up. Almost to the point of it being like, are these 2 going to be comic relief? Like, it was weird. So they tell Danko that they want Moscow wants a full accounting of what happened and how he failed to apprehend Victor. And Danko says, like, well, then you should talk to the Chicago police. And then their rebuttal is like, well, if they catch wind of what's going on, it's going to cause a horrible embarrassment to the Soviet government, which we know. I mean, like, thank you for retreading ground that we're already familiar with, but okay, we needed the reminder, I guess. So the bureaucrats, just hound Danko, call him stupid, and so that because of Danko, Victor's going to flood Russia with drugs, and they said that the government is going to be humiliated on a world stage, all because of Danko's failure, and I'm like, you guys are laying on fucking thick.
Yeah.
You need to just like chill the fuck out, touch a little grass, and like calm down.
It reminded me of the way they treated Drago in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
We're like, you were losing to him, you idiot. And it's like,
is
fuck
this
you guys?
Like, is this how it's done in Soviet
I'm doing
Russia?
my best here. Maybe it was.
I don't know, man. Anyway, Danko is like not having any of it. And he's like, fuck you. Tell Moscow whatever you want. And so they tell Danko, like, you get on the first plane home, and we've got you cleared to leave the hospital because once you get back to Moscow, Internal Affairs is going to be waiting to talk to him. Does Internal Affairs exist in Russia?
It's probably not like what we think of.
Maybe.
It's probably just more like the fucking, they make you disappear type people.
Internal Affairs is code for murder.
You fucked up, and now we got to make you go. You're going to disappear out to Siberia or worse.
So here's what I love. So they've said their piece, and they live. At this point, Danko opens his hand, and he still has the key?
Yes. That shit was crazy.
So he grabs a key, passes out. The ambulance grabs him. I presume they would probably try to open his hand.
Yeah.
But he is like rigor mortis on this key, and they just go like, well, whatever. I don't really care that much.
Because he's been through X-rays. He's been through all sorts of shit.
All sorts of shit.
And
but he's still got that key in his hand.
opened his hand up.
Just absolutely bonkers. When I saw him open his hand with that key, I'm like, all right, come on, movie.
No, come on, dude.
Like, what the fuck?
It should have been like he stuck it up his ass or something.
I know,
like
anything. Or he could have just been sitting on the counter. I don't know. Or maybe Ridzik shows up as like, hey, you
Here's
dropped
the
your key,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
on.
anything could have happened. Anyway.
That would have made so much more sense, actually, if Ridzik had picked it up when he was trying to crawl and get it. And then later on, he's like, hey, you dropped this.
You dropped this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anyway. So Lieutenant Stobbs is pissed that the doctors have allowed a bunch of Russian officials to speak with Danko, but then won't let the Chicago police question him about their whereabouts, which I agree. Like, it just seems...
Because the doctor's like, well, they weren't here to interrogate him. Like, yes, they were.
Yes, they were. Like, why do you think that they were here? I mean, come on. So, but the doctor tells us that Danko needs to sit and rest and recover. He shouldn't be doing anything. Meanwhile, Ridzik sneaks into Danko's room and sees him getting dressed and holding the biggest fucking gun on the face of the planet.
Yes, it was like the size of RoboCop's gun. It was like massive.
Which apparently this was this kludged together prop. The prop master disassembled a bunch of different prop guns and built this custom piece.
I think it was like a bunch of shit attached onto like a Desert Eagle, which is already a massive gun.
Yeah, exactly. But it's apparently supposed to be some sort of a Russian Magnum semi-automatic pistol, right? And Ridzik wants to know how he got the gun into the U.S., and Danko says he has diplomatic immunity. And
Which doesn't really even answer that question.
It does not.
He should have said like a diplomatic pouch.
Yeah.
I feel like is what he meant to say.
Right,
or that's
exactly.
what they meant to write.
But is that how it works, though? Like, if you show up in this country and they spot a gun on you, even if you have diplomatic immunity...
Yeah. I don't know. See, that's the thing. It should have been in a pouch, right? Because I think a pouch they're not allowed to open. They're not allowed to see what's inside it.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't have to go through metal detectors or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he probably ought to have said.
Right, exactly.
Whoever's fuck up that was.
But I feel like this is a theme that I saw, I mean, everybody saw in the 80s and early 90s, is whenever they needed to get a bad guy into the country without consequence, it was always diplomatic immunity. I mean, Lethal Weapon 2 saw this. Like, that was the whole point of Lethal Weapon 2.
Diplomatic immunity. It's just been revoked. I love that one.
It's a great movie. Yeah, Lethal Weapon 2 is great.
We got to get on some of those Lethal Weapons. I love that series. We haven't done a single Lethal Weapon movie yet on the podcast.
Well, then maybe we're figuring something out.
The first one was a Christmas movie.
It was.
Don't sleep on it. Maybe the Christmas Spectacular.
Not as maybe we will do that as a Christmas Spectacular.
Our Christmas gift to the world.
That's what everybody's waiting for. So Ridzik says that Danko is not supposed to be armed in the States, but he'll let him keep the gun if Danko will level with him about what's actually going on.
Right.
Okay. Like, that seems like no. I mean, I don't know. There's no leverage here.
Yeah,
right?
You can't take it from me.
Right.
I think.
If he has diplomatic immunity, then he's allowed to have it. Right. I mean, it's just
you can't arrest him.
No, you can't arrest him.
Yeah. So it's a little strange.
And if you try to take it by force, he's just going to bust your head in. Right. I mean, so it's just this hollow threat. But anyway, Danko challenges Ridzik and says, like, yeah, try to take my gun away. And then immediately puts it in his bizarre green suit jacket.
I feel like they definitely custom made that suit.
So Ridzik asks like why he's in the suit and not in the uniform, and Danko says that he's going undercover, and then Ridzik goes, undercover? You look like Gumby. Yeah, you're gonna fit right in, and he's not wrong though.
No, that was Gumby green.
Yeah, it was
that suit. They had to custom made like make fabric that is the color of Gumby.
And it is the most ill-fitting suit I have ever seen on a human being. Like, if you've ever seen, I don't remember the documentary, but the Talking Heads documentary, and the concert when Byrne is in that weirdly shaped suit.
I've watched that shit like half a dozen times.
Yeah.
Lately, it's so good.
That's what it looks like. That's how this suit looks to me. That's how ill-fitting it was. But it wasn't done ironically or for effect. It was just an ill-fitted suit.
Maybe there was slightly like the point of like, well, the Soviets don't have like a
maybe
fashion sense or whatever, you know.
Maybe,
but
I guess.
I also had done it prompted me to do a little Gumby research.
All right.
And I think the character was having like a big revival at the time that the movie came out, prompted by the Eddie Murphy sketches on SNL or whatever. But like all the old Gumbies had been just re-released on home video, so I think it was like having a moment or whatever.
So take advantage of the moment. Ridzik says that, look, you're going to fit in. Like, look, if you want to do something, you can just start by waiting for the Russian henchman to wake up and question him, right? Like, that's how you can help me the most here. And
well, oddly, Danko asked, when's he going to wake up?
Right.
And then Ridzik was like, what is this, 60 minutes? Which was a line that he later recycled in Jingle All the Way.
Oh, really?
As like the bad Santa character.
Oh,
he asked him some kind of
wow.
question. He's like, what is this, 60 minutes?
Oh, my God.
And
I wonder if that's just like one of his go-to.
Either that or it's like a weird, like a little insider Easter egg situation.
Given it's Jim Belushi, it's probably just a go-to. You know,
right? I do feel like in this movie, like a lot of what Belushi was saying was like improv.
Which, if that's true, man, way more misses than hits in this movie.
Oh, yeah, that kind of maybe makes sense. Maybe it makes sense.
But Danko says that, like, look, I got stuff to do first, and he starts taking off, right? He walks out of the hospital room, and the lieutenant stops him and is like, where the hell are you going? Danko doesn't answer, but Ridzik says, look, he's going to go find Victor. Stobbs orders Ridzik to stick with Danko and make sure that he stays out of trouble. Again, the relationship between Stobbs and Ridzik is so weird to me because, like, Stobbs clearly wants to just get him off the police force entirely. So why he is all of a sudden having him follow this very, very high profile figure in the States?
Yeah, no, they would think they'd put their very best man with him.
Exactly.
Like or at least the man who's most likely to be able to keep him out of trouble.
Right. Instead of this fuck up. But anyway, so Stobbs says like to go follow him around. Ridzik's not happy about this at all, even though he's already following Danko out of the hospital.
Right.
But Danko seems happy to have someone around. And he tells Ridzik, look, I want to go back to Victor's shitty hotel. Okay.
Sure,
whatever. So back at the police station, again, another scene that we think has been cut, right?
Yeah, there's a big jump.
Huge time jump here. Yeah. So when we're leaving the hospital, we think, oh, they're going to go check out the shitty hotel. Something's going to go down there. But then instead we cut to the police station hours later. And Danko is like playing with the chess game on Ridzik's desk. And Ridzik is talking to Commander Donnelly and saying that, like, we went to the hotel for 10 minutes and came out empty-handed. I'm like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
why'd you even waste time with any of this?
If you came out empty-handed, then what was the point of even like doing?
What was he going back there for?
Right, exactly. It was just so bizarre, and I feel like
there has to have been something that was cut out there.
I feel like it would have been this would have been a hilarious joke if they went and there was an action shootout and they killed a bunch of bad guys. Yeah, exactly. And then they're at the police station and Ridzik says, oh, we went for 10 minutes and he came out with nothing. That would have been hilarious, right?
I agree.
But that's not what happened here.
There had to be something that was scripted to have happened there that would further the story.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And they just decided we don't need that.
Yep, exactly. Just like another cut thing. I don't know, maybe at the hotel there's in the script there's this long 15-minute long monologue that Danko gives.
It even might have just been more character development shit that they're like, we don't need this. We don't need it. Yeah. They're just driving and talking in the car.
Right, exactly. Anyway, Donnelly tells Ridzik, like, look, if we're on official procedure here, you should have nothing to do with this case because your partner was murdered involved, as a part of this whole thing.
Right.
But he's going to try to keep him involved anyway.
It's nice to see at least like some semblance of actual police protocols being acknowledged.
At the very least acknowledged.
Like, but we're going to break those rules.
But even though we were immediately going to break them.
But at least we acknowledge, like, yeah, your partner got killed as part of this case. Like,
generally speaking.
We would pull you off of this thing.
Yeah. But again, for some reason, they have no other officer who can babysit Danko.
Right.
So he gets the job. So Donnelly tells Ridzik to send in Danko for a chat. Stobbs pops in on the way and says that the Russians called and they want Danko on a plane back to Moscow immediately, right?
Which I don't know what they're supposed to do with that information.
Right, they're fucking local PD.
They can't like force him onto a plane.
Right, exactly.
They don't have the authority to.
No.
do that.
At this point, it has become a federal matter.
It'd be like,
right?
You need to talk to the State Department.
Yeah, it's exactly
like,
right. This is a State Department issue at this point.
We can't like deport this guy
No,
or whatever it is.
They have
you're
zero authority here.
Dude, I gotta say, Donnelly's office was making me anxious, man.
Why
like
is that?
they were just like, it was so cluttered. There was like shit on every surface. It was either really good set design, or like bad set design. But it was just like there was a TV in there.
Yeah.
There was like posters on every like square inch of the wall. It was kind of like it was bugging me to no end that he was at his desk and on a cabinet on the other side of the room there was a little like electric pencil sharpener. I'm like, you would have that shit on your desk. You wouldn't be like, oh, my pencil's done. I got to get up and walk across the office to go sharpen it. Like, it was just bugging me. But anyway,
that's so funny. That must say something about our personality types because I did not notice it at all.
I'm like, dude, no. Why do you have that on the far side of the room? Like, that's something
so
you're actually
funny.
using.
That is so. I mean, I remember his
Why is your
office being
TV
cluttered.
behind you? Like behind your desk? How do you watch it?
I think you're right. I think your first instance was right. It was lazy production design.
Okay.
I think the production designer got like a character sheet of what this character's personality type was.
Well, they had laid in that stuff about that he's stressed out or something. So maybe it's like, because he had the fucking full aquarium in there, like ferns and fucking hibiscuses or whatever.
That is what I think it was, basically. Yeah. Donko enters the office and Stobbs reads through the dossier that they have on Victor. And it says that Victor's dad was executed for brigandage committed during World War II.
That's fucking crazy shit.
Brigandage. I had never heard that
what
word
is
before.
brigandage? It's like raping and pillaging.
Raping and pillaging. That is the technical term
holy
for
shit.
Raping and pillaging. Yeah. Which is like, cool. I learned a word today.
Brigandage.
Brigandage is raping and it is the technical term for raping and pillaging.
Yeah. Right on.
Great. So Victor was also in the Soviet military, and he served 6 years in a labor camp and is currently wanted for murder, kidnapping, rape, extortion, drug crimes, yada, yada, yada. I mean, the list is a mile long.
Well, it's basically like he's a chip off the old block.
He's definitely a chip off the old block.
Right?
Yeah. He's committing brigandage as well.
Do you remember, like, at the end of reading off all the charges, Stobbs bizarrely, like, balled the printout off and threw it across the office? And it's like, why would you do that?
Super weird.
You're gonna need that again. You're gonna need that.
I wonder if Larry Fishburne.
That was an actor's choice.
Actor choice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're like he's just showing like he's just a way to put an exclamation point on this.
Putting a button on this issue. Yeah. So Donko wants to know how they got all that information, and Stobbs says that the Russian government is being very cooperative all of a sudden.
Which also doesn't make any sense.
No sense whatsoever.
The last time we saw those guys, they were still all about being secretive about this shit.
What happened in that trip from the hospital to the hotel to the police station that the Russian government is all of a sudden very, very cooperative?
The only thing I was thinking was like maybe they just want the USA to be motivated to want to help them get Victor and get him out of their country. So they're like letting on how bad of a guy he is.
Exactly. But they're not. They're not speaking to his specific reason for being in the country right now.
Right. That there's
just that this is a bad dude and we want him back. So I guess that's fair.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to make excuses for him.
We are literally making excuses for the movie right now. So Donnelly is pissed and wants to know why Donko didn't tell them what a bad guy Victor was earlier. And Donko said he wasn't authorized to. My government does not like us to do laundry in public.
I liked that phrasing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like sort of a bastardization of like an English
we
phrase.
We don't air out our dirty laundry
or
in
whatever.
public.
I kind of liked it. I was like, oh, that bit felt a little authentic.
Yeah. It was the closest this movie gets to authenticity.
It was like the Russian translation of that phrase, you know?
Right. Donko says that he's not going to return to Moscow, though, without Victor, and he needs the cops' help.
He was trying hard with that accent, especially in this scene.
So many rolled R's, all the rolled R's. Victor. Yeah, it was so weird.
I think this is the only movie I can think of his where he was trying to like alter his voice at all.
I mean, like, even in True Lies, where he's supposed to be the all-American family man by day and international spy by night, he's still got a thick Austrian accent, and no one bats an eye.
Oh, do you think that does this movie I don't think it slots into the Arnold clone universe idea that we had.
Oh yeah,
about where the movie Twins, he's like the product of a government experiment.
Yeah,
and then we said, well, all of the various like True Lies and Raw Deal and Commando, where he's just like a miscellaneous American commando type character.
Right.
They're all like clones from this experiment of like creating the genetic super soldier. This one doesn't work, right? Unless like unless it was like some sort of Cold War espionage. They stole
100%.
an embryo or something.
This is the Winter Soldier all the way down, right? They stole one of the embryos, and this is the only successful clone
that they could
produce.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what that is, 100%.
We'll throw it in the shared universe.
Oh,
Why not?
It works perfectly. Yeah, there's no question that it works. This is the red sun. Like, this is exactly what that is. So... So Donnelly all of a sudden seems to have a moment of clarity, and he smiles and he encourages Donko, like, yeah, you go and get him. His only request, though, is to not make any news headlines and don't destroy the city. All right. Donko leaves, and Stobbs, like, reasonably wants to know why all of a sudden he's thinking about cutting Donko loose like this.
Yeah.
And Donnelly says, like, look, Donko is the perfect vehicle to capture Victor because he's a loose cannon with diplomatic immunity, and he doesn't have to follow American police procedures. And he's paired with perennial fuck up Ridzik, and he can be the fall guy if all things go bad.
Yeah.
And he closes out the scene by going, I've got no downside. And you know what? He's totally right.
Yeah.
Within the logic of this movie, he is totally right about this.
For me, this is the premise of the movie.
Right.
This is a good idea for a movie.
This should have been the end of Act 1.
Right. It's like, we got a fucking Russian guy who can do anything he wants here and he's immune. And we got a fucking loose cannon American cop who's with him. And let's like watch the sparks fly.
Right.
That's a good idea for a movie. I feel like that was probably the seed of the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it turned into what it turned into. But like that's been a million other movies. Like I was thinking, I never really watched the Rush Hour movies. Was it essentially like the same plot? Was it like a Chinese cop or Hong Kong cop?
Yeah, but Jackie Chan, I only saw the first one.
Okay.
And Jackie Chan, though, was super straight-laced. And yes, it was basically the same premise.
How's it? Yeah, like I'm just like an international cop who comes over who's...
I hadn't even thought about that.
I don't even know.
You're right.
I mean,
it is literally just this movie.
It's a premise that's like got a lot of things you could do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't see any of the other Rush Hours, only the first one.
I don't even think I saw the first one. I probably saw it one time.
I saw it once in theaters.
Okay.
And the only thing I remember about that movie was the young lady who was sitting behind me, who was clearly a Hong Konger, because anytime Jackie Chan showed up on screen, she would scream at the top of her lungs in excitement.
Shit.
And anytime he did anything, she would laugh hysterically. That is the only thing I remember about this movie is that Jackie Chan superfan was sitting behind me while I watched this movie.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is it. I don't remember the plot. I remember Chris Tucker being annoying, and that was it.
Yeah. Do you understand the words that come out of my mouth? Was that from that movie?
That was from Fifth Element.
That was Fifth Element? Okay. Fair enough.
No. That was from...
I don't know.
That was from Rush Hour. I'm sorry. That was... Yeah, I'm thinking... Yes, no, you're right.
I did like Chris Tucker and Jackie Brown, though.
Yeah.
There's one or two scenes before he got capped.
Yeah, but you're right. Do you understand the words
I
coming
don't
out?
know.
It is from Rush Hour. It is from Rush Hour. Yeah. I'm thinking of a different line from The Fifth Element. Anyway, back to this movie. This tells you something about Red Heat, in that most of the times when we're doing this, we have no problem staying focused and on task. And in this one, we keep drifting to other better movies. So
this is true.
Meanwhile, anyway, back to this movie. Ridzik at this point had the informant that led them to the Cleanheads previously in the original bust.
Right. Yeah.
He had that guy brought in, and he thinks, okay, well, we can lean on him to get more information about the deal with Victor. Okay.
Sure.
After they push this guy for information, they're going to go talk to a woman who used to know Victor while he was in jail. Okay.
He says a skirt named Catman. Like, fucking shit, dude. You're kind of toxic.
He is, though.
Because he also called the dude they were going to, like the witness guy, the informant. He's like, this pile of shit. Like, man, he's like he hates everyone.
He is not a likable character.
Low opinion of everyone.
And he never becomes likable. At any point during the course of this movie, he does not change. He remains unlikable from frame first to frame last. So Ridzik warns Donko that, like, look, voting people's Miranda rights is for, it's not allowed here in this country. And of course that goes over Donko's head. A, because what does that mean to him? Who is Miranda? And it's Soviet Russia, right?
Yes.
And so he says, look, let me handle the interrogation of the informant because you don't understand the rules of the game and how it's played here.
Yeah, he's like, you can't touch his ass.
Right.
And he's like, I do not want to touch his ass. I want to make him talk. He's like, okay, you let me handle this. You let me handle this.
So in the interrogation room, Brian James, who famously you'll recognize from Blade Runner and a million other things.
Super familiar dude.
Yeah.
He was in 48 Hours. He was in Tango and Cash.
That's right.
In Striking Distance and Fifth Element he was in too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's mega familiar face.
Super one of these just like working character actors who's in everything. He's got a very unique look, which is why I think he gets cast in so many things. Yeah. But he's playing Streak in this. And he says he doesn't have a shit to say about them them.
He was kind of dressed exactly like Reggie Hammond in 48 Hours, which I don't know if that was another like Easter egg or
maybe
it
was. I mean, it could have been a costume designer Easter egg, right?
Yeah, sure, of course.
So, but Danko immediately slams his head into the table, and then that calms him down a little bit. So Ridzik is like, whoa, calm down, come on. Look, we're going to talk this out. He puts like $100 bill into his suit pocket and then says to Danko, look, this is watch capitalism work. So it's not clear to me if this movie is pro-capitalism, anti-capitalism, pro-communism. It's all over the place. There's so many jokes made at capitalism's expense over the course of this movie that it's not clear to me where it lands politically on the spectrum.
Well, I feel like that was what the premise was going to be, was like we take a Russian cop and an American cop and watch like culture clash.
Culture clash, right. And it never pays off.
No, it doesn't really get there.
Yeah. So Ridzik tells Streak that they need more information on the clean heads and what their deal is with Victor. And Streak says that, look, he's already told the police everything he knows. The clean heads have a huge deal going down, and that's it. He can't speak to anything else.
Yeah, right.
Danko says, look, I think you're lying. And Ridzik says, in this country, he has that God-given right. So again, like, are we...
I feel like that's another, like, sort of a dig at communism. Like, we have God-given rights in this country. Like, you don't have over there.
It's so weird. But anyway, Ridzik immediately, like, then turns back into a douchebag again and says, like, that's weird. I smell something on you. And pulls a bag of heroin that he had wrapped inside the $100 bill from his suit pocket.
I loved that gag, to be honest. I thought that was like so funny. He's like, what is this?
Oh.
He's like, this is distribution weight.
Yeah, this is distribution weight. I know. He's very specific about saying that. Ridzik says, this is distribution weight. This is going to send you away for a long time unless you start talking. And Streak says, he's not saying shit, and I'm going to sue you over this. He's like, he's right. Like, he should sue them over this,
He's like, the lawyer I got makes the ACLU look like Nazis.
Which is a great line. I love that line. That was a great line. So Danko, at this point, Danko's done. He's like done with American police work.
Enough talk.
He grabs Streak's arm, pulls him out of the desk, twists it behind his back, and then like, is he breaking his fingers?
Maybe.
It seems like he's breaking his fingers. Streak starts talking.
Yeah.
And he says that Abdul Elijah is brokering the deal from prison and that the drugs are passing through Chicago in a few days, but that's it. That's all he knows.
He's like, I swear on my balls.
I swear on my balls.
Which
another Dick and Balls.
Weird Dick and Balls.
So much Dick and Balls play in this movie. So Danko tells Ridzik on the way out that Soviet method of interrogation is way more economical. And then he just walks out of it, which is, okay, that's a good line. I like that line.
I feel like this particular scene did a good job of like, if they were trying to go for that sort of culture clash thing, because it was coming up frequently, but they don't carry it through the whole movie, really.
Right. This might be the most culture clash scene in the entire movie.
I feel like this is probably what the tone the movie was trying to strike.
Yeah, exactly. So as Streak cradles his broken finger, Ridzik says like, man, that really sucks. You got to stop slamming your hands in doors, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a crook, man. So they're walking back to the car after they leave the police department, and Ridzik's telling Danko, like, look, you can't brutalize people in front of me. And Danko points out that Ridzik you're the one who planted the drugs on Streak, so look, neither one of us are innocent here.
Yeah.
He's got him dead to rights.
No, it was like definitely a bad cop type situation on the interrogation.
And it's like, who is the badder cop?
Well, they're just breaking rules in different ways.
Right. So Ridzik says that he's just pissed because his partner's dead. Was like, wow, okay, you're actually referencing your dead partner? Okay. The killer's on the loose, and he's stuck playing chauffeur, which seemed to me like that's what bothered him the most.
Yeah.
Not his dead partner, but whatever.
But I felt like, I mean, these are the people who are responsible for your partner's death. So I feel like you're working the case.
You're working this.
I mean, you're not like stuck at home on paid leave or whatever.
Right. This is patently against police regulation, but your commanding officers allowed you to do this anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Danko says they need to go to the jail and talk to Abdul Elijah, who Ridzik says that he's one of the biggest crime kingpins in the entire city. All right, so we're establishing a level of threat here with this guy. And Danko is stunned to learn that even people in prison have Miranda rights in the United States, which, again, he doesn't fully understand other than Miranda means you can say whatever you want to say. And,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So Danko says that in the Soviet Union, they're allowed to interrogate a suspect for 2 days without a lawyer. And Ridzik's like, are you shitting me? Danko says, I am not shitting you. So now we cut to the prison, and they're extorted inside, and they're taken to the Cleanheads playground.
Right.
Which this set is unbelievable.
Dude, that was apparently a real prison with real inmates. Like, as the extras, I'm like, never has a prison looked more like a movie set.
I mean, it's just like this big central column.
Like several levels of cells, like three floors of cells.
Reverse upside down cake
Yeah, it was very
layout.
cinematic.
It's crazy, man. Who builds prisons like that?
And when we were watching, I was like, that fucking prison guard is familiar. The one who walked them in.
Yeah.
And the dude is Alan Graff.
Okay.
Who I didn't recognize him because he's always got a mustache. And he didn't have a mustache in this thing. But he's like a legendary stuntman, stunt coordinator guy.
Wow.
He's had like hundreds of credits.
Oh, wow.
But he's been in shit like Over the Top, RoboCop, Total Recall, Roadhouse, Tango and Cash. He was in Deadwood, like had a big part in Deadwood. He was George Hurst's like man, his strong man, who fought Dan Doherty or whatever in the street.
Is that the one where he gets his eye knocked out?
Yeah, like
oh wow,
the big like sea monster looking dude. That was the same dude. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, we're big Alan Graff fans here on the podcast because he's turned up in half of the movies we've ever talked about.
So inside this insane prison, which apparently is real, Ridzik points to Abdul Elijah, and he points out Abdul Elijah to Danko. He's wearing sunglasses and listening to headphones, and he's got a full head of hair. All the guys around him do not have a full head of hair. And he says, look, Elijah makes all of his followers shave their heads to prove their loyalty, but he doesn't have to live by his own rules.
And then he says some shit like, sounds like your government, huh? And it was like more of that.
But more
this like the Soviets, like, yeah, like you guys are all poor, but we're driving Mercedes.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Very weird.
Political commentary shit.
Ridzik approaches a gatekeeper who's like blocking the way to Elijah. And he says, like, look, we're here to talk to him. And he gets a very rude welcome.
Yeah, it was something like, go fuck yourself or something like that.
And then cut to Danko having a conversation with Abdul Elijah.
Yeah.
Which is, so it turns out.
Yes. There's another big chopped out bit.
Like almost 5 minutes of movie chopped out here.
Where it seems like they were like, prove your strength by lifting some weights, which would have been actually a very weird scene.
Yeah, well.
So I don't know. And then they had him apparently fight one of the Cleanhead guys to show that he's a tough guy, and he succeeded or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know how that would have actually worked, like seeing it. But it makes for a jarring cut where they're like, we want to talk to him. Fuck you guys. And then cut to they're talking to him.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So Abdul Elijah claims to be a political prisoner. And Danko says, well, what's your political crime? And he goes, I robbed a bank, which I thought was a pretty funny line.
That was funny, yeah.
So Danko tells Elijah that he's got Victor's key. And Elijah says that means he's got access to Victor's $5 million, but he has to have that half of the $100 bill before they'll do business with him.
Yeah. Bizarrely convoluted.
Right. The plot in this movie is just it's just insane. So Danko says, look, I'll give you the key in exchange for Victor, and you can keep the cocaine. I don't give a shit. I don't want this in my country.
Right.
You keep the cocaine.
I just want Victor. Great deal.
Right, exactly. Elijah. I'm going to give you $5 million. I'm going to give you all the cocaine. All I need is this idiot.
You can keep the money and the drugs.
I just want the dude. Right?
Yeah.
That seems like a no-brainer deal. But Elijah playfully tells Danko that he's like, look, you're trying to get me to violate my principles. I'm like, what principles?
Yeah, whatever the principles are, that's never made clear.
No, that is not.
More on that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Danko says that the Soviet police, they don't have to play by American rules. And if the drugs make it to the Soviet Union, you're going to wake up one morning without your testicles again with the dick and balls play.
Which, honestly, what he said is actually even more odd because he says, you're going to wake up with your testicles floating in jars of water beside the bed.
Oh,
It makes it sound like each nut is like going to have its own jar, apparently.
Well, I mean, they at least respect his testicles.
But then
so.
Elijah's even more weird because he's like, well, I'm a holy man, so I don't even need my testicles. Which is
like,
fucking,
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I prefer to keep
what?
them, though.
Yeah. So then Danko's responses are like, well, then maybe you'll take your eyes. And just because we're playing this game of like, son, you can't up-dop me. He pulls his glasses off and he realizes that he's blind. But because we live in the future and all of our footage is very high def, you can clearly see that they are contact lenses over his eyes. And you're like, okay, this would have worked fine in 1988.
Yeah, that's a pretty bad look.
Yeah. So Elijah said that he and his people have always been exploited in this country, right?
Right.
And he says, like, I don't know if Russia has black people, but I do know that the Soviet Union does exploit your people as well. Like, well, I don't know that you necessarily needed to mention race, but yeah, I mean, fair point.
Right
fair
on.
point. So Elijah says that he's selling the drugs to white people is how he's going to get his revenge against this racist, infrastructure of this country.
Which
And
I guess that's sort of his ethos here.
I guess
Is like, I want to get my poison. I don't know. I can get my poison into any system that's being run by oppressors, but it kind of doesn't make sense because also you're really hurting the oppressed people though by doing this.
Right, exactly.
Like you're hurting them a lot more than the oppressors.
Yeah, exactly. The oppressor is enjoying their cocaine and not having any guilt about it.
But also, he was willing to hand the drugs over to this cop.
Yeah,
as long as he had the half $100 bill.
I mean, like literally.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know that any of your motivations make sense.
No, I mean, he's clearly just like talking shit, and he doesn't have no ideas where he's going with this. And Danko's like, well, I don't give a shit what your principles are. I just still want Victor.
Yeah.
And Elijah is like, look, I'm happy.
I think Danko is like as confused as I am.
No, we're all very confused.
I don't know what the fuck you're on about, but I just want Victor.
And we're all like, yeah, preach it, Danko. We don't know what this guy's talking about either. So Elijah says that he's happy to put them together, but because he needs Danko out of the way. And Victor is the man to make it happen. So it's like, okay, well, I'm basically telling you I'm going to set you up, and this is a trap, and I hope that Victor kills you.
Yeah, that's what I was getting from it.
That's the way I took it. And he even says, like, you're just another motherfucker we're going to have to deal with. It's like, it's pretty clear that, like, I'm going to put you up together. This is an obvious trap. If you're going to go walk into this obvious trap, more power to you. Right?
I want you dead, so I will lead you to Victor.
I will lead you to death.
He's going to fucking kill you.
Right, exactly. So Danko's not happy about this threat, but Elijah walks away anyway. I'm not entirely sure what was accomplished in this entire scene.
I'm not entirely sure why this character is in the movie.
No.
Abdul Elijah, because it's like his henchman on the street.
Yeah.
The Scatman Carruthers dudes, you really only needed him.
Right, exactly.
He could have been the kingpin.
Yeah, absolutely. He absolutely could have been the kingpin.
All you're getting from having this character is this one scene in the jail.
Yeah, exactly. And of which they cut half of it out.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't even really make that much sense.
Yeah, his character's more useless because this is less of like a part of the journey or whatever.
Right. So I don't know. Again, this movie is just all over the place.
Right.
And okay, it was running long. Fair. There's a lot of scenes in this movie that shouldn't be in this movie, and it feels like they cut the wrong scenes out of
That's
this
what
movie.
I'm saying. They cut out important plot points and left in weird scenes.
It's just like, I don't know. Did they just have Chat GPT in the 80s like edit this movie? Because that's kind of what it feels like a little bit. So later on, Ridzik is driving Danko back to the city, and he's asking what he and Elijah talked about for so long, but Danko won't answer any of his questions.
Is he still like trying to keep the drug deal a secret?
It is, I guess so. But at this point, he's like persona non grata in Moscow. So what the fuck does he care about?
Ridzik,
right?
And there was a thing. Ridzik used a weird word that had never heard before, and I looked up. He like said, "You were talking to that jazzbo so long," and I'm like,
"Jazzbo,"
which apparently either means a jazz music enthusiast or apparently just any black person, like a sort of a
So it's racist then,
a
basically.
racist thing, or maybe he was listening to music when they got in there. Like maybe they're like, he's a big jazz fan.
Oh my
I don't know,
God.
but it was
I
like
don't
that's
think
a weird word.
Given the character that has been
I hope
well
it's not a
established,
terrible slur.
I mean, I've not heard it.
I've never heard that word before in my life.
So at the very least,
It's just that it's an
used
antiquated
anymore.
word
Yeah.
that sometimes is used to just describe any random black person.
Well, that sounds racist to me.
No, absolutely.
Again, reinforcing the fact that Ridzik is not a likable
he's
character.
not cool. He likes
Not a likable
to use
character.
really ancient slurs.
So it's about this point that Danko's watch goes off, and he explains that it's a reminder to feed his parakeet. And Ritzik goes, "What is that? Russian for jerking off?" Like, seriously.
That made me laugh, though. But it was another dick and balls
It
joke.
is another dick and balls
but
joke.
That did make me laugh. That was funny to me. And he's like, "What is that? Time to pick up Pokey?"
Yeah.
Which that went over my head until like the third viewing. I was like, "Oh, it's another Gumby joke."
Yeah,
Okay.
another Gumby joke. And so it's like more nonsense so it happens. And
It
isn't
was
this
like-
point where he talks about his divorced sister again?
Danko was like, "What's wrong with a parakeet?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Nothing.
Nothing.
I didn't say anything's wrong with a parakeet. My kid's sister had a parakeet.
Oh, kid sister, that's what it was.
You want a parakeet? It's okay with me. I don't give a shit." And he's like, "You think parakeet is feminine?" He's like, "Did I say that? I didn't say that. I guess it's fine. Whatever."
It was just...
Didn't Action Jackson had a bird too? Didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did.
And that
Yeah, he
was
did have a bird. And I think it was
odd.
killed, though.
Did the bird die?
I think they killed the bird in Action Jackson.
Fucking shit.
Yeah.
You might be thinking about Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah. The dead, yeah.
My birds' heads are falling off.
So they arrive at the dance studio finally where, which they mentioned, like, at this point, 10, 15 minutes ago, that, like, after we beat up this...
Right. We're going to go talk to
We're
that
gonna go-
skirt.
We're going to go talk to that skirt, right? So they finally arrive at the dance studio to talk to the skirt. Gina Gershon, Kat Manzetti.
All I can say is like, holy shit.
She's a
Gina
looker.
Gershon.
Yeah, she's
wow.
a looker. And
Incredible. In the leotard.
yeah, and she's like doing all the dancing and all of her gyrations.
She could dance.
She's a good
I
dancer.
wonder if she was like, I mean, is that a talent she had?
I
Like
don't
as
know.
a.
Yeah, I don't know if she's like trained in dance or maybe.
I have to give Showgirls another watch. See if she was getting her dance on.
That's the reason why you want to show girls. I get it.
Yeah, of course.
You're only interested in the dance
film
choreography.
buff.
Yeah, you love a good dance choreography. That's why West Side Story is your favorite movie. So she sees the reflection in the mirror of the dance studio, and I guess this is her cue that something is going on. I don't know why she would think this otherwise, other than they're just like two weird white men wandering into her all-female dance studio.
Right.
But either way, she ends the dance and she goes into their office. They follow her into her office and she demands to see their IDs. And she's clearly got a bit of a thing for Danko at this point.
Yeah, she was sizing him up.
She clearly loves Russians, as we'll learn later.
Another thing that's weird in this movie is Arnold is a fucking behemoth, right?
He's a mountain.
And not one person in the whole movie ever is just like when he stepped out in the airport, the guy should have been like, "Wow, this guy's fucking huge,"
Yeah.
right? But like, no one ever seems to remark or notice that he's like Mr. Olympia.
And I think that this plays back into, the director's desire for Arnold. This is like a vehicle for Arnold as an actor.
I think it was not written for Arnold. It was
Right.
written for like just any generic guy to play
Right.
the Russian cop.
Right, exactly.
And they didn't overhaul it for Arnold.
Exactly. And so you've got that, and so it's just like there's this bizarre disconnect between who this statue of a man is and the way everybody reacts to him. Because if I were her in that moment, and this massive 6'3"
Like, dude with the broadest shoulders in the world.
and the flattest flat top that ever existed in a weird
like
green
the
suit,
chiseled jaw and all this.
I would fucking call that out. Like, I would call the shit
The fuck
out of
were
that.
you? Yeah, where did you come
Where the
from?
fuck did you come from? Exactly. That's the first thing I'm asking. But anyway, so Ritzik wants to know why she visited Victor in jail before, and she gives some sort of a smart-ass answer, which, there's a rejoinder. So Ritzik insinuates that she's probably just a prostitute that he met at a hotel.
Nice approach.
Because, like, this guy is
He's hostile to women throughout the whole movie.
right? I mean, someone's got mommy issues. That's all I'm saying. So Kat says, I don't want to deal with this. And she goes to leave, and Danko grabs her in a very...
That's another Arnold movie staple, is like grabbing the female character and forcefully telling them they have to help him.
Right, because if she doesn't help them, people are going to get hurt. If she doesn't help them find Victor, people are going to get hurt.
Right.
She says, like, look, all he did is like go to his hotel room, get his passport and some silly $50 bill and deliver it to one of his henchmen, right? She doesn't know who he is or how to contact him, but Ritzik isn't buying it and demands to know why she's protecting Victor, at which point she says, it's because he's my husband, and storms out, at which point, boom, another whiplash that this movie delivers.
Shocker, yeah.
Like, what is up with you, movie? Like, pick a fucking lane. It does not. At no point did this movie pick a lane. So Ritzik wants to arrest her, but Danko argues, like, look, we can use her to find Victor. He's not wrong. Danko posits that, like, Victor married an American under a fake name to get his visa to get into the United States.
Right.
That seems like a lot of work, and this begs the question of, like,
he hit the lotto with that.
He
did. He had, like, the hottest woman in America.
How long has he been working on this play? Right? Like, has he been auditioning women to be his visa beard? Like, I don't...
Right. Did one of the henchmen, like, help find someone and, like, arrange all of this?
Right, exactly. It's just, like, it begs so many questions that we will never get answers to. So Ritzik says that this seems like this is very personal between Victor and Danko.
Right.
Okay, he's finally picking up this after, I mean, we're halfway through the movie at this point. They've left the dance studio at this point.
They're out on the street.
Right, they're down on the street. Sorry, I left that part out. They're out down on the street at this point, and they're having this conversation, and we cut to Kat's POV, and she's watching them have this conversation, although she doesn't know what they're saying. Right?
Well, and Danko is like saying, yeah, I killed his brother 6 months ago.
Right.
And he doesn't even mention, like, also Victor killed my partner, which seems also, like, important.
Right, but it's not. No. Again, we've established that character has no bearing at all in the movie, even though he is the first face we see in the movie.
True.
So Ritzik says, like, look, you keep watch. I'll go get us some food, and we're going to have us a good old-fashioned American stakeout.
He's like, it's going to be all 4 food groups: hamburger, fries, coffee, and donuts.
Which is, okay, again, every once in a while there's like a good line in the movie.
Yeah.
But while they're having this conversation, Kat makes a phone call while she's watching out the window.
Right.
So cut to a short time later, Danko's in the car and he's waiting for her to come out, and he's writing down the number that's engraved on the key. Right.
It's like, they've been giving very little attention to the key.
Yes.
Which seems important.
It's a major MacGuffin in this movie.
It makes the Deus Ex Machina that's going to happen later in the movie like extra crazy.
Yeah.
That they've just been ignoring the fact that this key seems to be the crux of everything.
I know. It is the cornerstone. It is the linchpin of this whole movie. And just like this is the first time we've seen the key.
Let's go to jail. Let's just go to the jail. Let's go to talk to the hooker or whatever.
Right, I know. All of the scenes.
We have the solution in our possession.
I mean, everything basically from the point where he wakes up and has the key to the point where he's writing the number down on the key, you could cut all of that out of the movie and it would not change the plot at all.
Yes.
Like, at all, right? This is how weird the editing is in this movie. So a guy with a baseball bat, though, while he's writing this down, approaches the car and says, look, I live here and you're parking in my spot. And you need to move the fuck away or give me some cash.
That dude was really savoring that role.
It's like, look, this is my 3 lines. This is the only thing I've got in my reel. I am playing this to the nines.
Yes.
So Danko asks him, like, do you know Miranda? He goes, never heard of the bitch. And the timing is perfect because no sooner has he finished saying bitch, Danko punches him in the face and he falls to the ground completely passed out. So later on, Ritzik returns with food and he just completely steps over this unconscious guy on the sidewalk, doesn't even seem to notice him. And he like leans up against the car and he goes, who's that sack of shit on the sidewalk?
That was bizarre. Like that you just immediately sorted this guy into the sack of shit category. Right. Oh, this guy's clearly a sack of shit.
You're like, man, you are just an absolutely unredeemable character.
Yeah.
So Danko responds, he lives here. And Ritzik tells Danko, like, look, we've been called back to the station. They said that Victor's henchman is starting to wake up from the coma.
He's pulling out of his coma.
Right.
I don't know that's how comas work.
I don't think that's how it works. Yeah, you're not pulling out of a coma.
Also, I mean, this is a short-ass coma. the shootout was earlier this very day, right?
Well, I mean,
or has it been days?
It is hard to tell because they've cut so much out of this movie.
Yeah.
That isn't. We're like almost at a point.
I feel like he got in the coma this morning, and now it's at night, and he's coming out of the coma. So it's been like, is it a coma if it's only like 6 hours long?
I don't know what the dimensions of a coma or the length of time is required to be one.
Yeah.
But this movie seems to think it's a coma, so that's I guess what we're working
right
with.
on.
And so, look, we're done with the staker. We're gonna go and shake this motherfucker down. We don't care about her anymore. It's at that point the cat walks out of the building and she gets up into a cab. And Dago's like, okay, we're going to go follow them. And he peels up after the taxi.
Now we go.
Now we go. Coffee spills everywhere, all over Riddick's pants, all over his dick and balls. Yes, hell yeah.
He's like, oh, I burned my dick off.
Again, more with this shit.
Then like moments pass, then he comes back and he's like, oh, I just hard boiled my nuts.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, fucking shit, he won't let it go.
Oh my God. But meanwhile, that coffee stain, we're never going to see that again. It's gone.
Yes.
I mean, he never changes clothes for the rest of this movie.
Facts.
Anyway, but at this point, the pursuit is on, and we're off to the races.
Thank God.
And that's where we're going to end it for this episode.
The plot's picking up steam, I think.
Finally. 2/3 of the way through the movie,
we're
the plot is
along
finally
now,
picking up steam. Yeah. We got the inciting incident somewhere in the middle of the second act.
I'm all fired up, man. I'm enjoying it.
We're doing good. We're doing good. We're making it through it. But that's all for this episode. So,
thanks for sticking with us, listeners.
And we'll be back.